Hello, ladies and gentlemen, it is me again, Insane Gorilla, and welcome back to my channel. This is a female Deku What If. You may be asking yourself, well, asking me in the comments down below, this What If seems a bit out there. You haven't done a Mortal Kombat What If ever since you did What If Bell was, well, part of the Shia Ryu Scorpion's clan. That is true. I haven't done one of them for ages. I actually just bumped into that old video. I was like, wow, that was so long ago. I actually forgot what it was like to make a Mortal Kombat one. So, for you, my dear viewers who do watch my videos, and those who do, I take my hat off to you. This is what if female Deku had, well, became the god of lightning, or the goddess of lightning, considering female. So yes, this is going to be a Raiden what if. What if female Deku had Raiden's powers, aka / Izumi, the goddess of lightning. So, without further ado, and now that's my neck. Fuck, that actually hurt. Without any further ado, let's get on with this video. But before I do get on with it, just want to let you guys know, one, I am 100% sorry for not being able to do What If Bell was a ranger. I have been trying to do that on my PC, but I've got to do some more things before I can get the PC back up to doing, well, videos and all that. One, I am lazy, so I didn't do it, and two, I just don't have peace and quiet to myself for very long, so I might have to just be constantly doing it on my phone. So if I ever do a Bell What If, I will promise you it will be the Ranger one. I do apologise. So let's get on with the actual video. Peace. So we start this off in a hospital, because obviously that's where children are born. In Kote Midoriya, a single mother to her new born baby girl, who she calls Izumi, or Little Zoom. She was the most precious and most gorgeous baby she could ever have. She doesn't have her own long green hair, or the tuft of green for her hair, like Inko does. Instead, she has a gorgeous silverish whitish, well, a whitish silverish grey coloured hair, almost like lightning itself. And I have paid attention to a lightning storm. It is pure white due to how bright it is, but I wanted to make it a silverish grey so it stands out in uniqueness. So get used to it. Inko would cherish her baby. Izumi was what her husband and her always wanted, a beautiful baby girl. And if it was a boy, a strong and kind child. Izumi, 4 years later, would be in the doctor's area, checking up on her quirk. You see, she's been ever since she was 1 year old, she's had these mysterious outbursts of lightning just suddenly arcing in between her hands when she pulls them away from each other. Or she accidentally throws lightning out of her fingers without meaning to. Clearly a quirk had awakened So she must have the quirk gene. And the doctor, which is not the doctor from canon, just a different doctor, just says, "I'm sorry, miss, but this is just absolutely confusing." He shows her the image of Izumi's pinky toe, showing that she does not have the adjoining toe joint. And he just says she doesn't actually have a quirk, but this is super confusing. Perhaps she could be the first human child to not have the joining toe. So perhaps she could become the first quirkless hero with her power. Of course, Inko doesn't really like that. Inko is Inko. Her daughter has clearly got power, so she clearly has a quirk. Why can't the doctor just say, "Yeah, your daughter has a quirk. Congratulations. It's called lightning manipulation." After a few hours of conversation, Inko, just annoyed, just picks up her baby girl, carries her out to the car, they get in and they drive off. Inko is disgusted. The doctor just said, "Your daughter doesn't have a quirk. Deal with it." Even though he did say perhaps she could become the first quirkless hero, but that's not what Inko wanted to hear. Izumi is sitting in the car crying. And when they get into their apartment building, Izumi is in her bedroom watching All Might videos. She cries and says, "Mum, could I ever be like All Might?" Inko kneels down next to her crying and says with all the love, saying, "Baby, you are going to be like All Might. Regardless, I don't care what people say, you will always be like All Might to me." And Izumi just says in her head, "Thank you, Mum." And that night, when Izumi goes to sleep, her mind wanders about her future until she finds herself waking up, but not in a comfortable bed. She finds herself looking at the sky. But strange, there is no clouds in this sky, just the stars. Must have been a cloudless night until she hears the rumbling of thunder. She looks around, trying to see that thunderstorm. Her eyes are alight with excitement because she loves seeing these kinds of things. She always found them super fascinating and super cool to look at. But when she looks, she notices the rumbling is coming from underneath her. So she must think, "Oh, it must be my stomach going off. I must have skipped out on tea." She looks down and she's a lot taller than she thought. And she could see arcs of lightning going in underneath her. She panics and raises her hand, as it seems just to wipe it across the face, which was confusing. She didn't want to rub her face until she'd hear a man's voice. Her voice. "I see. So Shinnok is planning to return through the amulet." As the voice would clearly say, looking down at an amulet around his neck. "I will not let you return, Shinnok." As Izumi's like saying, "What? Shinnok? Who's Shinnok?" Is, well, lightning would strike the individual and she would see herself in the man's body again, seeing a man with light blue and dark blue ninja outfit facing a guy with yellow and black. one feeling cold and emotionless with a cold fury, the other one burning hot with rage and anger, bloodlust leaking out of every step. Scorpion, Sub-Zero, enough! You are not here to fight. Stay out of this, Raiden. This Lin Kuei dog killed my family. Killed my entire clan. Your clan were nothing but cowards, Scorpion. The Xia Ryu deserve to die. Why, you son of a... Enough! Nobody will disturb this tournament. Shansun. Raiden. Keep the Earthworlders in check. This is Outworld, not Earthworld. Earthrealm, sorry. So keep them all in check. Let the first tournament begin! Zumi would watch another fight. This time, she was blocking attacks from a man with a giant hammer. Shao Kahn! Shao Kahn! I will not allow you to invade Earthrealm. Like you could stop me, Raiden. Raiden would go flying back as he'd throw lightning at, well, Shao Kahn. Is that all you got, little puny thunder god? I've faced warriors 10 times stronger than you. Even your elder gods fear my name. The elder gods do not fear you. They will once I send them your head. Another one. A green vortex. A man with what seemed like evil, demon-like features on the ground, panting. No. Impossible. You have lost, Shinnok. The amulet comes forth, and Shinnok is sealed into the amulet. Raiden! As a man would run up, looking like a movie star. Johnny Cage. What are we going to do with that? Shinnok will return. We have to destroy the amulet. No. I feel like I can keep the amulet safe. I hope you do know what you're doing. Izumi. Izumi's like, what? How does... Izumi, Johnny would say. Izumi. His voice would turn more feminine. As her eyes would suddenly blink open as she would see that her mother was there, shaking her. Izumi, Izumi, Izumi. Oh, thank God. Sweetheart, you're okay. Mom? It's okay, sweetheart. You're having a nightmare. It's okay. Inko would just be smiling. Although there'll be a stench of ozone in the air. Izumi doesn't know what happened, but she falls asleep after a while. When Inko walks out, she winces as she grabs hold of her arm, as it's severely burnt. What happened to you, Izumi? After a couple of years of Izumi being pronounced quirkless, although everybody sees her with lightning powers, Izumi gets bullied by people who she thought could be her friends, Katsuki Bakugo being one of them, as he turned out to be the biggest bully she's ever known. who'd always bully her. And, well, she hated it. One time, after a severe beating, when she was 6 years old, Inko put her into martial art training. Now, Inko herself is a black belt, so she's a martial arts expert in several martial arts, from kickboxing to, I believe, kendo as well. Anyway, I need to just check. Okay, sorry for that. So I was right. Karate and kendo. But she also puts Izumi into Kung Fu as well. So, Izumi learned a lot about martial arts, from Kung Fu to Kendo to Karate, kickboxing, and she mixed and matched a lot of these styles to make her own sort of specialty. Little did Inko and Izumi know that she was actually following a certain path, which I'm making up by the way, that Raiden did. He studied martial arts, hence why he was good at it, but made very terrible life decisions. You don't like my little answer to that? Please leave that in the comments. So yeah, Izumi got really good at all of it, really. Like, once she got used to it, she was able to take down anybody nearly twice her size. And I mean nearly. She wasn't able to take on a fully grown adult who actually had years more experience than her. But she did put them through their paces. And when Bakugo and his friends came along to bully her again, she used her martial arts styles to royally flatten them. Of course, some of the teachers mainly put the blame on Izumi, giving her a bad rep for being such a uncultured and unapologetic girl who finds it fun to bully other kids. Now, Inko wasn't having that, and she put a formal complaint about the staff members to the head teacher. There we go. Brain fart just then. The head teacher does nothing about it. It's like, I don't care. Kids will be kids. It's not the kid's fault. It's the kid's fault. It's the parents' fault. If your daughter's bullying people, it's bad parenting on your part. So Inko gets even more frustrated and takes Izumi out of schools. Because every school that Izumi goes to, she just gets the same thing. She's a bad influence on her own daughter, because her daughter's beating up students who were picking on her. And they actually had video evidence all the time of the kids picking on Izumi. At this point, Izumi never really activates her quirk, because she doesn't want to fry someone half to death. Because lightning is not very willing to be controlled. And Izumi knows she's not ready to even remotely try and do anything with lightning yet. 1 minute. Right, where was I? Martial arts, kickboxing, karate, kendo, kung fu, bully beating. Where was I? Ah, yes, schools. So eventually, Inko brought Izumi out of any school and started home teaching her. Now, Inko was working around about 2 different jobs. She worked at a supermarket, and she also worked in a tech store to earn enough money to feed herself and, obviously, little Izumi. And as the years go by, Izumi finally goes to Aldera High. Over the years, Izumi had grown into quite the drop-dead gorgeous bombshell, and with that and being homeschooled, she's quite smart. She's only there for a school's actual test. So when she passes it, she pretty much doesn't have to go back. And so she walks in, she's wearing a long skirt that goes over her knees, a buttoned up white t-shirt, and a blue overcoat or overjumper, as she generally just walks in and passes the letter to the headmaster, aka the principal, saying that she's here just for the test, and that is it. The principal does sneer at her, because everybody still knows that this is Izumi Midoriya, the girl who will beat anybody up just because she could. Not that he really cares, he doesn't. Because in his eyes, all the students here could beat her ass, whether she likes it or not. And he could just simply call the police and say that she's trying to burn the school down. Izumi just turns after he reluctantly gives her the room that she's going to be in doing the test. And as she walks, she's just casually walking, but how she walks, and she doesn't realize she's doing this, but she's walking like she's a, goddess among mortals. And most of the boys pretty much do get out of her way and are drooling. She doesn't know this, but everybody else kind of does. With her walking and strutting the way she is, she's showing a side of herself that she subconsciously is showing, the aura of power. She is quirkless, but yet there's this aura of nobility and extreme power, as if you piss her off and she can deal with you. She's powerful, her quirk is immensely strong. She honestly doesn't know that she's walking like that. The girls glare at her, mainly because her body is not almost. In those girls' eyes, her body is that of a supermodel. So she's extremely gorgeous. Her skin is lightly tanned. Her hair is like exotic and very unique. And as she walks, they can just see her chest just constantly jumping and jiggling around. And her hips sway from side to side in that sort of hypnotic fashion to entice any man or woman just to follow her sway of her hips. And again, a reminder, she was doing this all subconsciously. And if you hear an alarm going off in a couple of minutes, sorry, that's me cooking food. So, yeah. She gets to her class and she opens it. All the boys see her and the girls see her. The girls that are already sitting down, their jaws hit the floor. And the boys start hollering and hooting like, hot damn, look at this chick. She's gorgeous. Of course, Kotsuki Bakugo, thinking he's the be-all, know-all, has his feet up on his desk. But when he looks at her, there's just something about her that he should remember. She looks extremely familiar. There we go. Alright, sorry about that. I've now just had to set my alarm for 7 minutes now. So back to the story. With Bakugo trying to figure out who she is, Izumi just, with that same strut she doesn't know she's doing again, She just walks up to a spare seat. All the boys are drooling. One even actually smacks her in the backside, causing her to actually eep and turn around and full on bitch slap the guy. Now, she had a bit of lightning to that, so it stung an extra bit. And after that, no guy ever slapped her backside. That is without her permission. The one who did that still had that perverted grin, although it looked like it was twisted into that of pain as well. Izumi flattened out her skirt and sat down. But the way she sat down, even after having her booty slapped, she sat down with the elegance of a goddess. And a lot of the boys just found that sexy. Even Bakugo found that quite sexy. But he doesn't know why he's having this urge to try and claim her as his girl before any of these other extras. It's not as if she's actually going to be falling for any extras. No, he's already a top dog, so it'll be easy for him to get her as his, mark her as his own. The teacher's one of those guys that just knows when a student does that to a female student, even if they are not part of the school. He just knows that that student is just going to have either a major headache or a foot planted in between the legs. So he's just standing there shaking his head saying, "Oh boy, I knew that was coming." So the teacher goes through the whole spiel about how I know you all want to be on the hero track by throwing all the stuff up in the air. The students cheer and hoot and holler. Everybody's happy apart from Bakugo. Again, he does his whole speech like, "Hey teach, don't bump me in with these bunch of losers. They'd be lucky to even get a D-list hero." Of course, they all scream at Bakugo and tell him that he shouldn't say that. They never know they could get a good hero as well. That's when Bakugo gets told he's planning to go to UA. Well, the teacher tells everybody that Bakugo's planning to go to UA. Everybody's shocked, saying that UA only has a 2% entrance rate. Only the best of the best go there. And Bakugo says, "Yeah, and that's why it's worthy of me. No other school is worthy for me other than UA, because UA is the best. And I aim for the best." He puts up one finger and shouts, "I'm planning to be one. Number one. Not a number 2 loser, the number 1. Izumi, knowing Bakugo, even though she hadn't seen him for like years, still remembers his cocky attitude and how much of a bully he is. She just scoffs and says, "Who would really want a pyromaniac like you as number 1? You'd scare more people than actually help them." Everybody looked at Izumi. Izumi, knowing that she's strong enough because she knows martial arts and kung fu, just looked at Bakugo with that look that just says, "I said it, what are you going to do about it?" And of course, Bakugo gets angry. He calls her an extra. She just basically flips him off the bird. Everybody's like, "Oh my god, she's being so disrespectful to Bakugo." Everybody knows that doing that to Bakugo is a surefire way to get yourself bullied. The teacher does stop Bakugo before he does anything, saying, "Bakugo, if you don't sit down, I'll give you detention and get your feet off of the desk." Bakugo just grumbles and gets back into his seat, almost silently vowing vengeance upon that Deku girl, as he wants to teach her a lesson. The papers are all given out, and the test basically goes as it is. Izumi actually passes it with flying colours. Like I said, she is quite smart because of Raiden's memories and all that. So there are things that she learns that are like virtually impossible for other people to know about, and she virtually just does it all cleanly. When the teacher gets up and he marks them all down, he says, Izumi Midoriya, full marks. Some of these explanations you give on certain factors are super in detail. I have never heard of half of these things, let alone understand what they mean, so you get extra marks for that. Izumi just nods. Everybody says puffs, PFF, yeah, right. There's no way she was able to do that. And since they can have smart boards and all that, the teacher turns on the smart board and shows what he could see through some sort of device that shows it onto the screen. And when everybody sees it, they're all, the fuck? All of Izumi's answers are incredible. They are in intense detail. Hang on. Alright, where was I? Something about a test. End of the test. Izumi, is just remembered. Izumi passed with flying colours. The teacher showed the students that Izumi's answers were incredibly detailed. And Izumi leaves. Not leaves the school, she just leaves the classroom, because she's only there for a test, so she just struts out the way she was earlier when she walked in, just walking with that strut that says, I have power and I have strength. I am better than you all, so out of my way. And Bakugo pretty much screams, hey Deku, as he was pissed. He wanted to be number one. But in his eyes, this random extra just popped up and ruined all of his, just ruined his reputation of being the best. Even though he didn't really have the reputation of being the best. But we all know Bakugo, his ego is extremely fragile. So of course, Bakugo just goes ham. In the hallway, explosion after explosion after explosion. Sorry about that. So explosion after explosion, Bakugo was just letting rip. And all Izumi was doing was dodging. In fact, Izumi had her head down as she was walking, and she wasn't even paying attention. Bakugo threw an explosion at her back. She moved her back in a certain way where the explosion would just go past her. Bakugo throws an explosion at her head. She'll move her head one way or duck it. Until the entire hallway is virtually destroyed because of Bakugo, Izumi's just walking out of the school. Until Bakugo finally tries to clap her cheeks by trying to send an explosion right into her butt cheeks. Trying to get her attention so he could really have a go at her. And all he heard was, fool. And with merely a whisper of the wind, Bakugo was sent flying back into the school with an imprint of a foot in his gut. And Bakugo's body tweaking due to the lightning current still running its course out of his body. So he is sort of then The guy looks like one of those animated cartoon characters who just basically... No, actually no. He looks like Deadpool in his Deadpool game when he had to make himself the conductor between two cables. Just open the door. So yeah. Bakugo was done dirty. And Azumi, she wasn't even looking at him. She just... with that same strut that just shows her confidence in herself and her strength. She goes underneath the bridge where the sludge villain would be. Now be aware she still is an All Might fan, so when the sludge villain does attack her, she just clicks her fingers and lightning just oozes out of her. Now this is pure lightning, so it's going to hurt a lot. And when the sludge villain hits it, the lightning arcs through the liquid that the sludge villain is made out of, obviously. And even in sewers, All Might was chasing him, and even he shivered at such as the scream this villain was saying or screaming. When All Might popped out of the sewers for saying, "Have no fear, for I am here," his eyes were shadowed because he was smiling, but when he saw that there was this silver-haired girl with obviously her back facing the sludge villain and All Might himself, he could see, well, her eyes were a pure electric hue, and she just doesn't even look back at All Might for more than 2 seconds before her eyes turn to normal, and she immediately goes, "Oh my god, it's All Might." This confuses All Might. At first she looked like an absolute monster who just stood in shit that she didn't want to step in, and got pissed off at it, only to suddenly go into super fangirl mode. All Might didn't mind signing her notebook, giving her an autograph, but now he's kind of confused. First she was, in his personal opinion, terrifying, because he had never seen such a sight before, other than one particular villain. But that brings up PTSD, and he doesn't want to see that. So he thinks that perhaps this girl is related to that said villain. But when the girl goes super gaga about All Might being her favourite hero, he kind of thinks that maybe she isn't actually a villain's child. Perhaps she is just a regular girl. All Might scoops up the villain into, again, the plastic jugs, or the plastic bottle, sorry. And Azumi doesn't grab hold of his leg like Izuku did in canon. She just basically let him go. And she holds down her skirt, so, well, nobody sees her panties. Because, to be honest, all girls are like this. They don't want just the entire street seeing their underwear colour. And she just holds her skirt down. But she had that smile that says, "Yeah, I feel happy with my life right now." And Azumi walks off. 10 months later, Izumi is pretty much at UA, because, to be honest with you, I'm not going to go through a training arc or a training montage, because that's really not really important. Just a quick heads up, she did do training. But What she did was just mainly her martial arts training and putting a bit of muscle on herself as well. So she did some lifting and moving some stuff. She did dig up a beach because she wanted to clean it. Something just told her if she didn't do it, then she would feel guilty for not doing it. So she did it all within 10 months, in fact. And so, with all that said and done, Izumi pretty much just walks up to UA. She passes through the scanners detecting her quirk, but even the lack of one, but it was there at the same time, the senses kind of like. If the senses could have faces and arms and heads, they would virtually be scratching their heads like, she's got a quirk, yet she's scanning up quirkless. Huh? But anyway, Izumi, she was just strutting her stuff. Again, showing that air of confidence and strength that she has. She walks in to the paper test, or the written test, sorry, and within, I don't know, 10, 20 minutes, pretty much 20 minutes before it's done, she finishes, hands it in, and goes to sit down. And so she goes to the 0 point, well, the robot portion. She doesn't mumble, and she does pay attention. But again, Ida has to point her out because he believes that she's not actually paying attention. Izumi just cocks an eyebrow as she casually leans back on her chair and leans over with one arm raised over the back of the chair. She just simply says, "Listen, whoever you are, President Mike was literally telling us about the 0 pointer, so if you don't shut up and let him finish, we might not know what it's about. And for your attention, I was paying attention. You're the one being disrespectful. President Mike, could you please continue?" President Mike's like, "Yeah, little listener, sure, I'll continue. The 0 pointer is just an obstacle. You're meant to avoid it." So that was pretty much it. Azumi went again to the same area she was in canon as a male. And she does see Uraraka Ochako. Now, being Azumi, she can't afford to let anybody feel down about themselves or have confidence issues, so she begins walking up to the Uraraka. And of course, Ida stops her, saying that she's clearly trying to focus. You're not a hero if you're going to distract her. Izumi just gives him this stare that tells him to basically back the fuck off. And so Ida does, with zero hesitation, is like, "Oh shit, hello. You're scary." And Izumi just turns around and she walks straight to Uraraka. Uraraka sees her and is jealous. Mainly because, well, Izumi's hips are a lot more, well, a bit more bigger than hers. And her butt is also more firmer. And plus Izumi just has that sex appeal body that just oozes sex appeal and like would have every guy just going over backwards just to be with her. And she just smiles that smile that again makes Uraraka jealous, because again, that smile would make men just get on their hands and knees and just cruel to her, just wanting to see that smile. And they'll do anything to see it. Hey, Izumi, say, if you're feeling nervous, don't be. If you feel like you can't handle it, just take on the robots you think you can manage, and afterwards, just be happy with what you got. Not all villains are easy, but not all heroes are mainly combat oriented. As long as you give it your all, and even help people, you might actually get in. Now, this kind of pep talk actually makes Uraraka happy, because it's clear this woman is not only just extremely beautiful, but she also has that side to her that says peace and tranquility. And of course, President Mike just screams into the mic, "Get ready." Izumi looks towards the door, and she books it. She knows that there are no ready, set, go, or 3, 2, 1 goes in a battle. You're fighting for survival if the villains is actually aiming to kill you. So Izumi just darts in. Everybody claims that she's cheating, but President Mike just shouts, "What are you waiting for? Go, go, go!" There's no time, no countdown in a real battle. So everybody just goes. Izumi sees a 3-pointer, a 1-pointer, and a 2-pointer, and she delivers kicks, firm palm strikes, and even a karate chop. She dismantles and destroys quite a few. Her lightning power comes out to add that extra oomph. And Izumi then does a fly high kick. So she jumped and basically kicked the robot's head in. She did that, and instead of kicking the head in, she kicked it clean off. And into another robot that was actually trying to tackle a kid with a laser coming out of his navel. So yeah, the kid just says, "Mademoiselle, thank you for the aid." Obviously it's, Miriana. So yeah. Not Miriana, what was his name? Mr. Sparkles. So yeah, I'll just call him Mr. Sparkles for that one. And Izumi just nods and tells him to basically keep his mind open and his eyes and ears sharp. And she just darts off. Her lightning-based ability actually making her move incredibly quickly. As she spins and does a roundhouse kick into another robot, which was a 3-pointer. And then 2-pointers, a 1-pointer here and there, and another 3rd-pointer. Until the ground starts rumbling. Up in the observation rooms, the teachers are picking out their students. Aizawa definitely did notice the ash blonde and the silver-haired girl, saying that they are both unique, although the boy needs to work on his attitude. The girl is efficient and fast. She's been helping and gathering points. I would definitely want her in my class, because she seems like she would be a very, very tactical leader. Basically, everybody's nodding. All Might remembers the girl who technically fried the villain. Well, where was I? Oh, yes. The 0 pointer turns up. Izumi looks at it and, like, says, wow, that's actually quite big. Oh, well, it's meant to be avoided anyway. She turns around and starts jogging off, because she knows she's not meant to go up against it, until she hears a woman screaming for help. Her eyes snap open as she looks directly to where the shout came from. Pardon me. And it came from a girl with, well, brown hair, permanent cheek. Her cheeks are permanently pink, from looks like blushing, and she is trapped underneath some rubble. Izumi's eyes flash with lightning as she just suddenly runs, her form a blur. When Ida was running past, all he could do in slow motion is see someone running past. And in a flash, Izumi ended up in front of Uraraka. She says, "Are you okay?" Uraraka says, "No, I think my leg is I think my foot is twisted." Izumi just lifts the, debris off of, Uraraka's legs and tosses it aside. She then looks at the 0 pointer that is closed in, and she puts her hands together and slowly pulls them apart, lightning arcing in between her fingertips and in between her hands. As she pulls back her hand and shouts, lightning spear. And she throws the lightning spear like a goddamn javelin as it pierces the 0 pointer's head. Now, lightning is like faster than the speed of light, so it would strike, you'll see a flash, and it'll be gone. That is basically what happened. There's a flash, and the 0 pointer is, starting to fry itself out from the inside out. Miniature explosions happen until the robot just detonates. Not in a fiery explosion, just like dark smoke just bangs out from every pore of the 0 pointer as it completely short circuits. Its circuitry pretty much fusing into the chassis of its its giant body. And Izumi pretty much picks up Uraraka by the back of, from underneath her legs and placing her arm around her back. This is incredibly weird for Uraraka. She knows she isn't a lesbian, but this woman, she has there's just something about her that was just divine in nature. Just for the way she walked, the way she held herself, just the way she was walking. She was walking with such purpose, such confidence. Uraraka couldn't quite place it. The woman just seemed godly in nature. But she just puts it to the back of her head and just enjoys being princess carried by another woman. And after a while, Izumi places Uraraka down and tells her that she'll most probably see her soon in UA. And surprise, surprise, a few days later, Inko comes crawling into her daughter's room over the moon about saying, Izumi, it's here. The letter from UA. course, Izumi opens it. Now, I should really explain the dynamic between Inko and Izumi right now. Over the years, Izumi had been helping her mother out as much as she possibly could as a child, from cooking her food to doing the laundry. And Inko had noticed that when her daughter hit her early teens, so when she was 10 to 11, she noticed that Izumi was already starting to develop more of some sort of imperious kind of demeanor, like she was royalty. Of course, Inko knew that Izumi wouldn't actually be like this imperious woman who just believes she's above everything else, but she kept an eye on it. And as the years go by, as Izumi hits 11 years old, she still has this sort of air of finality about her. It gets to the point where Inko starts noticing that Izumi starts walking with a more of a sway in her body, like her hips just sway in that way that just screams otherworldly or over the world confidence in herself and in her body and quirk and skills. Inko thinks this is arrogance, and she brings this up to Izumi, who just honestly scratches her head, saying, Mum, what are you talking about? I'm actually just walking. Inko explains what she saw, which was, in her opinion, not just casually walking. So yeah, it kind of goes on for like this for hours, and Izumi at 13 already had started developing quite nicely. At 12, she already noticed that she was starting to grow her more womanly assets out. So her hips were starting to get a little bit more rounded, and her breasts were starting to develop. So it was nothing too major. And of course, once Izumi hit 15, and Izumi and Inko both knew that Izumi's tits are going to be, well, a solid double D, if even a triple D when she finished growing. So imagine Inko's surprise over the next 10 months after finishing a test. Izumi's breasts had only gotten more and more bigger, surpassing the D cup to then double Ds, then triple Ds, which is just where they stay bordering along G cup. How now? E cup. Sorry, I meant to say E cup, not G cup. So yeah, Izumi's bordering on E cup, so that's kind of for Inko. She only has a solid D cup. Hell, she had a triple C cup when she was not pregnant with Izumi. But when she got pregnant with Izumi, she went over to the double D cups. Because obviously she was producing milk for her baby. And so that is pretty much the end of their little backstory throughout the years. So yeah. Then obviously coming back to real time, Izumi goes to her room and she opens it. And she sees that it's All Might. All Might pretty much explains to her about the heroes, the villain and combat and rescue points. Azumi had a whopping 188 combat points and a whopping 112 rescue points. She is by far the strongest and quickest hero All Might and the Hero Society has ever seen. They would personally like to welcome her to UA in 2 days. Izumi asks herself, why? Why go in 2 days? All Might pretty much explains that it is to begin your training a lot earlier. The Hero Society had seen that power and have decided to begin your training a lot earlier. Because they believe that in a few years, well, in a year or two, you would be ready for immediate hero work. You would be becoming the quickest graduate in all of UA history, if you accept. And All Might quickly whispers into the camera, just to let you know, I don't think you have much of a choice in this matter, so you're going to have to get used to this. But All Might pretty much grins at her and says to her, welcome to your Hero Academia. Izumi basically screams, yes, I'm in. She hugs her mother, who opened the door, and both of them started bouncing around and laughing and joking. In 2 days, she walks towards UA. Principal Nezu would be the first one to greet her, along with All Might, Aizawa, Vlad King, Midnight, Present Mike, and Cementos, with some others. Ectoplasm, I believe his name is, and what was his name? Power Loader, there we go. They would all introduce themselves, they would say to her that it's an honor to see her, this, that, and the other. Oh, and by the way, the USJ is going to take place a lot later, so it's going to be in the second year, not the first year. And Izumi goes in. She gets to know all of the staff in UA. And when everybody comes along 2 weeks later, Izumi's already been in there for 2 weeks, so she already knows everybody. So when she walks in, she sees her fellow classmates. She sees Ida, Momo, Todoroki, Mineta, who sees her and immediately starts eyeballing her. Sorry about that. And she instantly gets creeped out by Mineta. Like, Mineta's openly perving on her. Even when she walks with her strut, Mineta just follows those, as he calls, perfectly sized melons. And she goes to her own desk. Luckily, she's away from Mineta, but she's right in between Asui and, well, Mina. And when Mina sees her newest her classmate, she believes that she is a new student like she is. So Mina, being Mina, skips over and asks her, basically says, hey girlfriend, so what do you think of the school so far? Is it your first day, like us? Asui pretty much croaks like a frog, wanting to understand this as well. In fact, everybody wants to know. Everybody has seen her, and most of the boys pretty much were eyeing her up like candy. Even some of the girls were eyeing her up as well. And, honestly, truthfully, Izumi kind of backs up a bit and says, "Actually, I've been here for 2 weeks. I started 2 weeks earlier than you lot did." Everybody's jaws, quite understandably, drop to the floor as they all scream, "What?" Of course, Aizawa makes his appearance after Uraraka turns up and says, "Pipe down. It took you 8 seconds to shut up. That won't do. Thank you." Ooh, shit. Sorry about that. If you heard that, which of course you did. Aizawa pretty much tells them to all shut up, sit down. They all do so. Aizawa introduces himself as Shoto Aizawa. He'll be their teacher for the next 3 years. And he doesn't say anything about Izumi, because he's pretty much sure that she'll tell them eventually when she's ready. And he basically tells them to all of them, bar Izumi, because she's already done this test, to get their PE uniforms on and go outside. Izumi gets her PE kit on as well, because she says it's no fair for them if I'm the only one who's allowed to get out of it. That's just favoritism, and I will not have that. Aizawa just shrugs, knowing that Izumi's that kind of girl who would put her own happiness last compared to others. And so Izumi walks right into the girls' changing rooms, and she feels like someone's spying. Of course, she's already getting undressed and putting her uniform on. Most of the girls are just stunned by her figure. Even Momo looks at herself and in wonderment of how can girls like them get such big tits. Everybody's just shocked by how big Izumi's melons are. And they could have sworn they heard someone scream, "Holy shit, those things are huge!" Of course, they all kind of thought that it was a boy's voice, which it was. Jiro puts one of her earplugs into the wall and screams, "Girls, there's a peephole in this locker." Manetta's just pretty much blabbed about all of her breast sizes. All the girls shriek in horror. When Izumi finds that hole, she belts it with lightning. And Mineta just so happened to be poking his eye in at the time, so he got a zap in the eye, which made him cry in pain. All the boys basically said, "Yeah, you'd serve that." Even though Dinky and Shiro, I believe, the tape guy, were both perverts themselves. But when they saw Mineta holding his eye as it was smoking, they realized that one of those chicks must have a electricity quirk. Bakugo knew who that was. He still remembers when he got kicked in the gut. And he said, "Must be that lightning chick." Of course, the boys look at him. Ida kind of puts 2 and 2 together when Mineta said something about Izumi's chest being easily E-cup, and all of a sudden having lightning shot in his face. Ida then puts 2 and 2 together. His brother talked about a girl who was bullied because of her power and not having an adjoining toe, and her name was Izumi. Then he thinks back to the girl who clearly was covered in lightning running past him, and he realized that girl and this Izumi were the same person. So he said Izumi Midoriya, the girl of lightning. Everybody just looks at him like, the fuck? how do you know this? He decides, says, my family, we are all in the hero business. My brother, especially. And he told me once about this little girl who was around about 6 who had a sad reputation of somehow being the biggest bully when she was clearly not the bully. She was just a victim, and the teachers pointed at her and said she was a villain. Of course, everybody kind of understands why, because Mineta basically just got its eye most probably taken out. But alarmingly enough, the door was busted open, and who was to walk in? Izumi herself. Fully kitted out in her PE uniform, and she sees the grape-haired boy on the floor, and she puts her shoe with her foot in it on his balls. And I don't mean the balls on his head, I mean his actual manhood, and applies pressure. Now, he's not only screaming from the pain in his eye, but the pain on his nuts. Azumi looks at him with disgust and says, if I ever catch a whiff of you perving on any girl in our class, or any girl in this school, I'll be making sure your manhood is no longer functional. I'll make you into a girl by blowing them off. This goes for all of you boys. She twists her foot, causing Mineta to scream in pain, and she leaves. With the boys satisfyingly quelled, including the 2 who were also pervs, covering their balls, Izumi walks out. Aizawa raises an eyebrow. Izumi walks up to him and basically admits to what she did, and also admits to threatening to blow their manhood off if they do it again. Aizawa whispers something suspiciously like troublesome problem child. Izumi pretty much walks up with the rest of the girls, who are either giving her great respect or fearing for their own lives. But hey, it's Izumi. She has no power and she doesn't like perverts, so of course she's gonna kind of overreact, but hey. But other than that, the test is pretty much the same in canon, just that Izumi actually has power this time. And when you ever need it, a few days later, they would still be doing their stuff. All Might would burst in, saying, I am here, walking through the door like a regular person. Only for Izumi to say, All Might, you're not walking like a regular person, you're looking like a daft balloon with your Golden Day armor on, so please stop acting like a big baboon. Which Aizawa was pretty much laughing up a storm, because there was always a insult being flung in between these two. Both of them didn't really mean the insults. It was just a way for them just to show that they respect each other enough to sort of nudge and push a small boundary of insults that really didn't mean anything. And All Might's eye was twitching as he says, "Well, at least I'm not a silver lightning rod in a thunderstorm." Izuma just shrugs and says, "Hey, my hair gets frizzy. Just stand in the rain. Just don't get struck. Not that lightning would strike me anyway. It's that golden mop of hair of yours that would get struck first." Because the lightning would see it and say, "Hey, that guy looks fun to zap. Leave the girl with the silver hair alone. She looks like she's been zapped enough." As it would come down on you and zap you instead. Especially with that golden armor. Again, Aizawa is rolling around actually laughing his ass off so hard he's actually punching the ground because he can't stop laughing. Even All Might's chuckling at this, and everybody's just shocked. All Might just insulted one of the students, and the student had just launched another insult back at him after she launched the first insult. They were all wondering with this sudden weird dynamic in between Aizawa's manic laughter and crying of, "This is too fucking hilarious," to All Might just shaking his head with a just audible chuckle that indicates he really doesn't mind. Until All Might breaks character, coughs, then gets back into character and says, "Right, we are here to do combat training." Of course, everybody's happy about this, especially Bakugo, because he wants to deal with Izumi. And All Might says they're all going up against Izumi. Izumi is the villain, and they are the heroes. Izumi just chuckles and says, "Well, I better put on my best villain act then." All Might shivers slightly, but chuckles in the end, knowing that the kids are about to be scolded on how not to fight indoors, especially with someone with lightning for a quirk. Of course, Bakugo is going to be Bakugo because, meh. We get into the training ground. Izumi left earlier because All Might wanted to go through a few rules. And when Izumi came out of the changing rooms, she went straight into a tower, well, a apartment complex that was in this fake city. All Might took them to that fake city and to the fake, well, apartment building. As he says, somewhere in this tower, apartment building, is a strong villain. You have to find her and arrest her by putting this capture tape around her wrists. It can only be one wrist for you to capture her. Be aware she is extremely dangerous and will use force if engaged. Of course, Bakugo's like, "Yeah, I'll deal with this. I'll take this deku on by myself. I don't need you extras." All Might sternly says, "Young Bakugo, you will pay attention, because underestimating an opponent with incredible power is one way to end up dead. Trust me, before I became the symbol of peace, I nearly died to a villain, because I got overconfident. And I ended up losing my own mentor. So never believe you are invincible." With that sobering word, Bakugo still doesn't believe him. Bakugo still believes he is superior. But he'll play ball until he can get to see that Deku and pound her face in for the humiliation she gave him over 10 months ago. And so, on the top floor, Izumi would be breathing in and out, going in her mind combat scenarios and thinking of ways to defeat her, well, now roommate, well, now classmates. That's when her ear picks up on the rustling of clothes. She smiles. They're here. Now, be aware, she's kneeling on the ground, her back facing everybody. Bakugo doesn't hesitate. He blows off the door, causing everybody to shout at him, saying, "Bakugo, remember what All Might said." Izumi had already raised her hand and shot lightning out and zapped Bakugo off of the building. Not enough to make sure he goes splat because of the lightning, but enough to give him one hell of a shock, and I hit that fucking box again. Sorry about that. So again, after Azumi did that, she turned her head, and said, "Well, heroes, took you long enough to find me." She truly goes into her villain persona. When she gets up and turns around, Mineta pretty much forgets that she threatened his manhood. And she looks at them, and this is her dress. Which was kind of very revealing, and a lot of girls were kind of worried if she did a high kick, would they see her exposed area? But they'll look a lot closer and see that she was actually wearing shorts as well. So the shorts kind of really did match her skin tone, so they couldn't really tell at first until they realized that there was something shining from her waist. That's when they realized she is wearing a pair of shorts that just match her skin tone. And she looks at them and smiles. "So, who would like to play?" And that is actually where I'm ending it, guys, because I've got to get myself packed, because I'm going on vacay tomorrow. Peace.